Alright. Hello, my lovely people. Nice to see you here. Alright, so what I'm going to do is the advent of the code, and well, if you haven't seen this website, go check it out. It's pretty cool. And I'm sure I won't be able to do it daily, but at least maybe twice, 3 times a week. And so, yeah, the advent of code for me personally will be a little bit late, but hopefully will cover whatever is needed and whatever is fun. Alright, then take number 7. Day 1. Feel free to read the description, it's quite lovely to say the least, but the gist of it is this. So, what you get as an input is this sort of list of calories, and the calories are being carried by the elves. So each elf, well, they are separated by a completely new and empty line, right? So this is the calories that the first elf carries. And the important part is at the very beginning, your idea or your task is to count down those calories and most importantly return not really the full list, but rather only the maximum, right? So whichever elf is carrying the most calories, you don't return the elf index or something like this. No, you just return the sum of the calories he carries, right? So in this instance, we are talking about the fourth elf with 2400, 24,000 calories. All right. And yeah, let's jump into the solution. So this is the main thing, the main thing. This is how we use the code, but let's take a look at the actual code. And since I'm doing TDD, well, we start off with creating the test, right? And this is the most important test and the most important thing we'll focus on today. You've got the list, and what you expect in return is the list of lists, of course, divided by the elves, right? So how does it look like? So we've got the calories text, which is a string, and this thing we split by the new line. Simple as that. So what we expect in here is the array of strings, which also contains those empty lines. Next, we do a map fold. Now, why do we do that? So what I want to achieve is assign to each line an index of an elf, right? So when it's the first elf, the index will be 1, the second elf, the index will be 2, and so on. And I also have the bad index, which is -1, which will be attached to anything that was the empty line. So, you know what? Let's see it in action, right? And to see it in action, we'll just debug this test. So what we have, calories text is, as I mentioned, 1, 2, 3, empty line, 4, and so on. And now if we go a step further, let's take that up. Step further, boom, what we achieve is the list of 1, 2, 3, empty line, 4. That's good. Now what we want is the elf indices. So we run this map fold with, once again, a little bit of a helper. And the helper's main job is to return an index. And it also uses folds to remember that index when we go through the list. So we go through the list sequentially, and whenever we encounter an empty line, we just increase the index we just increase the index, that's it, right? So whenever we have an empty line, we return bad index and the new accumulator, and the new accumulator is elf index +1, right? If it's anything else, we just return the elf index, so the accumulator, and then we set the accumulator once again to that same elf index. And since we are starting with 1 rather than with 0, just because I wanted to, here we have the output. And since it's a map fold, we are actually returning the list that was done by the map and also the fold. We really don't need that folding right now, so we just take the first out of those. And we end up with this. And this is the list that describes the indices, the elf indices, right? So for the first 3 values, that was elf number 1, then we have a bad index, then elf number 2, once again, empty line, elf number 3, and so on, right? And since we are using lists and F#, there's this beautiful function called list zip, which allows us to just match those two those two lists together. So we are matching calories list and the elf indices together, and the output is boom, here we go. So we have elf number 1 with 1 calorie, elf number 1 with 2 calories, elf number 1 with 3 calories, the empty line, elf number 2 with 4 calories, and so on and so on. Then we just filter out those empty lines. They are no longer useful. They were useful only to set the indices, right? Then we do some transformation to have the integer rather than the text, grouping by the elves, and so on. And this is the result we get. Result is, boom, first elf has those 3 calories, those 3 foods with calories assigned to them. The next one has only 1 food but 4 calories. The second one have 2 foods, and so on and so on. 2 snacks, I should rather say, that not 2 foods. Jeez, 2 snacks. All right, cool. And this is the gist of it. Boom. So that's fine. And now the tests pass. All right. So let's take a quick look at what else is happening in here. So as I mentioned, when we have this beautiful list, now we have the calories divided by elves. Now we can easily find the maximum calories for the 1 elf or for 3 elves. This is rather simple now since we have the list in this format. So let's go. Let's take a quick look. Get most calories. We have that list of lists. So then we just map each list or sublist, I should call it. So this is the calories for the single elf, and we just sum it. So what we'll achieve in here will be sum for each elf, right? Then we just pick maximum, that's it. When we want to take 3 elves or whatever number of elves, we do pretty much the same, but we just sort it by descending, take 3 elves and then sum also that. And that's the whole idea. So let me show you the beautiful part, and this is run all tests from solution. Yeah, TDD is beautiful. I can change this implementation however I want, and I do appreciate that quite a lot. And let's also just run day 1 so we can see the outcome. All right, and the outcome is, well, you can read it yourself. All right, thank you everyone for your attention. I'm very glad you've been here with me, and I hope it was at least a little bit interesting. Thank you, and as always, we can do better as a pack. Bye everyone.